They laughed when they saw her standing near the buffet table. No designer dress. No security around her. Just quiet confidence and folded hands. Someone whispered, "She's probably staff." Another guest shoved a tray into her hands and told her to hurry up. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She just stood there, watching every face, because what none of them knew was this. This wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a trap. And in less than 30 minutes, the same people who mocked her would be standing frozen. When the most powerful man in the room walked in, looked straight at her, and said 5 words that shattered the entire hall. If you think this story ends with apologies, you're wrong. This ends with power changing hands, and once you hear what happened next, you'll understand why underestimating her was the biggest mistake they ever made. I still remember the way they looked at her that night. Not with curiosity, not with respect, but with that quiet kind of disrespect people use when they think someone doesn't belong. The chandeliers were shining. The room was filled with tailored suits, designer gowns, soft jazz, and fake smiles. Everyone there was somebody, or so they thought. And right in the middle of all that luxury, they saw her, a black woman standing calmly near the aisle, wearing a simple dress, hands folded, eyes lowered. To them, she wasn't a guest. She wasn't important. She was just staff, they whispered. They pointed. They laughed under their breath. One woman even stepped forward and said the words that changed everything that night. "Excuse me? Clean this up." What none of them knew, what not a single person in that room was ready for, was that the wedding hadn't truly started yet, because the real moment, the moment that would freeze every smile, silence every laugh, and flip the entire room upside down, would come when one man walked in late, and when he spoke, the truth would hit so hard that every single person who looked down on her would wish they could disappear. Stay with me. Because this isn't just a wedding story. This is a full circle lesson about class, respect, and what happens when you mistake humility for weakness. Everyone at that wedding thought they understood the hierarchy. Who mattered? Who didn't? Who belonged at the table? And who was only there to serve it? I was standing near the edge of the ballroom when it happened. Black tuxes, crystal chandeliers, soft jazz floating in the air like money itself. This wasn't just a wedding. This was power on display. CEOs, investors, politicians, friends. People who never look down because they assume everyone below them already knows their place. And that's when they saw her. She was wearing a simple black dress. No diamonds. No loud labels. Hair neatly pulled back. Calm. Composed. The kind of woman who doesn't need attention. And that's exactly why they ignored her. Or worse, misjudged her. One of the bridesmaids leaned toward another guest and whispered something. They both laughed. Then a woman in a silk gown snapped her fingers. "Excuse me?" she said sharply. "Can you take these plates back to the kitchen?" The room didn't stop. The music didn't pause. No one corrected her, because in their minds, the decision was already made. Black woman. Standing alone, quiet staff. I saw her blink once. Just once, not shocked. Not angry, measured. She didn't argue. Didn't explain. Didn't raise her voice. She simply said, calm and clear, "I don't work here." That should have been the end of it. But arrogance never knows when to stop. The woman rolled her eyes. "Sure you don't. Look, sweetheart, everyone's busy. Just do your job." A few people nearby chuckled low, comfortable, cruel in the way only confident people can be. Someone added, "Yeah. Don't make this awkward." That's when I noticed something important. The woman they were mocking wasn't shrinking. She wasn't. It's embarrassed. She was waiting. Because somewhere in that building, the man who owned the venue funded the wedding and controlled half the room's careers was on his way, and none of them knew who she really was to him. By the time I realized something was wrong, the damage had already started. The wedding hall was massive. Crystal chandeliers, white marble floors, a live string quartet playing soft music in the background. Everyone dressed like money. Old money. The kind that doesn't need to talk loud to be heard. I stood near the entrance, waiting. I wasn't early. I wasn't late. I was exactly on time. But the way people looked at me, you'd think I didn't belong there at all. A woman in a champagne-colored gown brushed past me and didn't even say, "Excuse me." Another guest glanced at me, then immediately looked away, like eye contact itself was beneath her. I felt it. That quiet judgment. That unspoken assumption. Then it happened. A woman stepped right in front of me, mid-30s, perfect makeup, designer heels. The kind of confidence that comes from thinking the world owes you respect. She looked me up and down once, then twice, and she smiled. Not a friendly smile, a smile that said, "I've already decided who you are." She snapped her fingers. "Hey," she said, "can you take these to the back?" She shoved an empty champagne flute toward me. I blinked. "I'm sorry?" She rolled her eyes like I was slow. "The glasses. Take them. You staff people are always standing around." Staff people. I felt the heat rush to my face, but I kept my voice calm. "I'm a guest." She laughed. Actually laughed. Loud enough for people around us to hear. "Sure you are," she said. "And I'm the bride." A few people nearby chuckled. Not because it was funny, because it was easy. Easy to laugh at the black woman standing alone in a room full of privilege. I looked around, expecting someone to step in. Someone to say something. No one did. Instead, another woman leaned over and whispered, not quietly enough, "They really should give staff uniforms. This is confusing." More laughter. The first woman stepped closer, her smile turning sharp. "Look, sweetheart, I don't have time for this. Go do your job." That's when she reached out. Her hand caught the fabric of my dress. Not hard. Not aggressive. Just careless enough to be disrespectful. I gasped as the fabric pulled. There was a soft tearing sound. Silence dropped over the group. Her smile disappeared instantly. "Oh my God," she said, stepping back. "You people are always in the way. You people." I looked down at my dress, then back at her. My hands were shaking now, but not from fear, from restraint, because in that moment, I could have said who I was. I could have ended it right there, but I didn't. I just stood there, and that decision, that silence, was the biggest mistake they were about to regret. By the time the ceremony was supposed to start, the room felt different. Whispers were everywhere now. Not because of the wedding, because of me. I stood near the side wall, holding my posture steady, my expression calm. Even as people kept sneaking looks my way, a few guests started connecting dots they didn't want to believe. The wedding planner walked up to me again. Her tone lowered this time. "Ma'am, can I ask who exactly you're here with?" I met her eyes and smiled slightly. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." That answer didn't sit right with her. Across the room, the bride noticed the tension. She leaned toward her friends, pointing at me again, irritation flashing across her face. "Why is she still standing there?" she snapped. "I told you, she's staff. Someone get her out before she ruins the photos." One of the groomsmen stepped toward me, chest puffed out like he was doing security's job. "Look, we've been patient," he said. "This is a private event. If you're working, go to the back. If you're not, leave." I looked at him calmly. "Are you sure this is your call to make?" He laughed. That laugh echoed louder than he expected because a few people around him joined in. Relieved, someone was finally handling me. That's when the doors at the far end of the hall opened, not dramatically, not loudly, but with enough weight that every head turned instinctively. A tall man stepped in. Tailored suit, calm, walk, eyes scanning the room like he owned every inch of it, because he... Did conversations die at mid-sentence? Phones stopped moving. The wedding planner froze. The groom straightened instantly, and the bride's smile disappeared. Someone near the front whispered his name, not loudly, almost reverently. "The billionaire? The groom's biggest investor. The man funding half the companies in that room." He didn't. Rush didn't look impressed, didn't acknowledge the decorations or the crowd. His eyes locked onto one person, me, and for the first time all evening, Someone crossed the entire room without anyone daring to stop them. He stood in front of me, looked down gently, and said one sentence that flipped the entire wedding upside down. "Why are you standing alone?" The room went silent, dead silent. I smiled back. Apparently, they think I'm staff. That's when his expression changed, and that's when everyone realized. They had made the worst mistake of their lives. That was the moment they realized something was wrong. The wedding planner stopped smiling. The bridesmaids froze mid-laugh. Even the woman who had spilled champagne on her dress suddenly went quiet, because the man walking in wasn't just any guest. His presence changed the air. He didn't rush. He didn't look confused. He walked like someone who owned the ground beneath his feet. Security straightened up. Staff whispered. Phones slowly lowered, then quietly rose again. Someone near the aisle whispered his name, and once that name left their lips, everything shifted. This wasn't a random late arrival. This wasn't some +1 who got lost. This was the man whose name was on half the buildings downtown. The man whose company logos were stamped on the wedding sponsor banners. The man the venue manager personally thanked earlier that morning. The billionaire. He scanned the room once, calmly, not looking for drama. Not looking for attention, just looking for her. And when his eyes landed on the black woman standing near the service table, holding her torn dress together, his face changed. Not anger, something. Colder, he walked straight toward her. Every step felt heavier than the last for the people. Watching, because now they understood. She wasn't staff. She wasn't help. She wasn't someone who didn't belong. She was the reason he was there. He stopped in front of her and spoke softly. "Are you okay?" The room went dead silent. No music. No laughter. No whispers. Just the sound of 1,000 assumptions collapsing at once. The woman who had humiliated her swallowed hard, because in that second, she realized something terrifying. This wedding, this moment, this entire room was about to change forever. By this point, the room had split into two sides. Those who were still laughing, and those who had started doing the math in their heads because the woman they had just embarrassed wasn't reacting like someone who was powerless. She wasn't begging. She wasn't explaining. She was waiting. The wedding coordinator rushed back, whispering urgently to the venue manager. Phones were coming out now, but not to record jokes anymore. People were texting, calling, Googling. Someone near the front said it out loud, barely audible. "Wait, is that the same last name?" The CEO's girlfriend froze. She looked at the woman's torn dress again. The fabric wasn't cheap. The stitching was custom. The shoes weren't rentals. They were understated luxury. Too late, she realized her mistake. She stepped forward, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," she said, her tone suddenly soft. "Careful." The woman finally looked up. Her voice was calm, controlled. "No misunderstanding. You treated me exactly how you wanted to." Silence hit harder than any shout. Then the venue doors at the back opened. Not dramatically, not rushed, just confident. Every head turned, and the energy in the room shifted. Instantly, because the man who walked in didn't look lost. He didn't look surprised. He looked like he owned the place. Black tailored suit, no rush, no bodyguards in sight. But the staff straightened immediately. The manager's face went pale. Someone whispered, "That's him." The woman didn't turn around. She smiled, because she already knew. And in that moment, everyone understood one thing too. Late, this wedding wasn't about who was invited. It was about who had just exposed themselves in front of the wrong woman. That's when everything started to feel off. The whispers stopped. The laughter faded into uncomfortable silence. Phones that were recording lowered just a little, because the man at the entrance didn't look confused. He didn't look angry either. He looked calm. Too calm? Tailored black suit? No flashy logo. No rush in his walk. The kind of confidence you don't practice, you earn it. He scanned the room once. Not impressed. Not surprised. Then his eyes landed on her. The same woman everyone had just embarrassed. The one still holding the torn fabric of her dress. The one they thought was just staff. His jaw tightened. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't hurry. He walked straight toward her. Every step echoed louder than the music it's ever had. People moved out of his way without realizing why. The groom's friends suddenly looked unsure. The bride's smile froze halfway, like her face forgot how to move. The man stopped in front of her. For a second, he said nothing. He gently took off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. The room gasped, not loudly, but all at once. He adjusted the jacket carefully, like he was protecting something priceless. Then he looked down at her, softening in a way no one expected. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Her eyes filled, but she nodded. That's when he turned around, and the temperature in the room dropped. He faced the wedding planner first, then the bride. Then the group that had been laughing the loudest. His voice stayed calm, but every word landed heavy. "Who," he said slowly, "thought it was okay to touch my wife?" The word hit like a bomb, my wife. People's mouths opened. No sound came out. The bride stumbled back half a step. "Your wife," someone whispered. He didn't repeat himself. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and unlocked it. "Didn't show the screen yet? Just looked around the room one last time, I suggest," he said. "You all sit down." And for the first time all night, they listened. That's when the room shifted. The groom's father cleared his throat, trying to regain control. He walked up to the mic and forced a laugh, saying this wedding had a few misunderstandings and that everyone should relax. That was the mistake. Because the billionaire husband finally stood up, not rushed, not angry, calm, controlled, dangerous. He adjusted his cufflinks like he had all the time in the world. Then he walked straight toward the center of the room, every step echoing on the marble floor. Conversations died mid-sentence. Phones stopped shaking. Even the DJ froze. He looked at the woman who had torn his wife's dress, not with rage, with disappointment. Then he spoke. He said this wedding venue belonged to his company. He said the catering staff worked for a subsidiary he owned. He said the security team answering radios right now was on his payroll. You could feel the blood drain from faces. The bride's mother started whispering, "Is he serious?" The groom looked like he was about to pass out. The billionaire turned to the wedding planner and calmly asked who approved removing his wife from her seat. The planner stuttered, saying she was told the woman was just staff. That's when he raised his voice for the first time. He said, "That staff is my wife. This wedding only exists because I signed the check." Silence. Pure, brutal silence. Then he did something colder than yelling. He smiled. He pulled out his phone, made one call, and said 5 words that flipped the entire night upside down. "Cancel the remaining transfers." The groom's father lunged forward, asking what he meant. The billionaire looked him dead in the eyes and said the sponsorship, the venue discount, the luxury accommodations, the after-party cruise, all of it was funded by him as a favor. And favors can be withdrawn. That's when panic hit. Because this wedding wasn't just a celebration anymore, it was collapsing in real time. And my wife? She finally lifted her head, not crying, not broken. Watching, the room didn't explode. It tilted. You could feel it, like gravity itself had changed direction. Whispers spread faster than the music ever did. Guests who were laughing minutes ago slowly stepped back. Phones came down. Smiles vanished. People started looking at her, not like staff anymore, but like someone they had misjudged badly. The woman who had torn her dress? Her face drained of color. She tried to laugh it off, tried to say it was just a misunderstanding. But no one laughed with her. The wedding coordinator suddenly stopped mid-step. The security team froze, unsure who they were supposed to protect now. And then it happened. A well-dressed man near the front whispered loudly enough for others to hear, "That's not staff, that's his wife." That sentence hit harder than any microphone announcement. People started connecting dots. The calm posture, the confidence, the silence. She hadn't defended herself because she didn't need to. Across the room, the billionaire watched everything unfold. Still quiet, still composed. Not angry, not loud, just observant. The guests began choosing sides without being asked. Some walked away from the woman who caused it. Others stared at the torn dress on the floor, suddenly ashamed they hadn't spoken earlier. And the worst part? No one came to defend the people who had humiliated her. Not one. The power in the room had shifted completely, and everyone knew. This wasn't over yet. This was just the moment before consequences arrived. The wedding hall went dead quiet. Not the awkward kind. The dangerous kind. You could hear forks dropping. Phones stopped recording for half a second, then everyone hit record again. The groom stood there, calm, one hand in his pocket, the other resting lightly on her shoulder. He looked around the room like he was counting inventory. Then he spoke. "Before tonight ends," he said evenly, "I want everyone to understand something." He turned to the wedding planner. "Pause the music." The DJ froze. Lights stayed bright. No hiding now. He pulled out his phone, tapped once, and handed it to the giant screen behind the stage. A slideshow appeared. Company documents, property records, bank filings, LLC ownership transfers. Gasps rolled through the room like a wave. This venue, mine. The catering company, mine. The event staff agency you hired, also mine. The bride's smile cracked. Her mother whispered, "Is this a joke?" The groom finally looked straight at the bride. "You humiliated my wife," he said calmly. "In a room I own, in front of people who work for me." Then came the line nobody forgot. "That means this wedding is officially over." Security stepped forward, not toward him, toward them. Guests started shifting seats. Some stood up. Some backed away from the bride's family like bad PR. Phones were shaking now. One woman whispered loudly. She thought she was just staff. The groom leaned down, whispered something to his wife. She lifted her head for the first time. No tears, no anger, just quiet strength. She looked at the bride and said one sentence. "You never asked who I was." And that was worse than any insult. Because in that moment, everyone realized the truth. The humiliation didn't start tonight. It started the second they decided not to see her as human. And the consequences. They were just beginning. The wedding hall was silent. Not the awkward kind. The heavy kind. Every whisper died the second he stepped forward. The billionaire didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder, the same woman they'd mocked, ignored, and called staff. And then he said calmly, "This wedding exists because of her family's investment." Gasps rippled through the room. The bride's smile cracked. Her friends froze. The same guests who laughed earlier suddenly avoided eye contact. The billionaire continued. "Steady and controlled. Every contract signed today. Every sponsor here. Every vendor paid came through my wife's company." That word hit harder than any insult ever did. My wife, the woman who had her dress torn, the woman who bowed her head in embarrassment earlier, the woman they thought was invisible. Now she stood tall. She didn't shout. She didn't insult anyone back. She simply looked around the room and said, "I was never staff. I was just watching how people treat someone they think has no power." Silence again, then consequences. The billionaire turned to the wedding planner. "Cancel my sponsorship." To the venue manager. "You'll receive a termination notice by morning." To the bride's father. "Our business partnership ends today." Phones came out, but this time nobody was laughing. This time, people were recording the fall. The bride collapsed into a chair. Her dream wedding didn't end with music. It ended with contracts shredded, reputations destroyed, and invitations revoked. As the billionaire and his wife walked out together, guests parted like they were royalty. Outside, cameras flashed inside. Shame settled, and the final line echoed without being spoken. Respect doesn't come from clothes. Power doesn't announce itself. And the people you humiliate today might be the ones who own the room tomorrow.